the Ruth Loves to Knit podcast. I'm Ruth and I love to knit. You're very welcome here this morning. A bit of a different one. I thought I would just do a very informal wee knitting chat and answer some of the questions that have been coming into me over the last weeks, months, probably by now. Just very informal, get your knitting, get your craft and knit along with me. I'm back using my trusty rocking chair. So if I'm rocking, it's subconscious, it's not, and I hope it doesn't make you feel sick. We were up and out early this morning to leave the car to the garage for MOT and service. Oh dear me. Expensive, but it has to be done, doesn't it? So I have 100 other things I should be doing, and I just thought I'm gonna make a cup of coffee in my mum power mug, which is needed this morning. I felt like somebody was chasing me around the bed last night. I didn't sleep very well, and I just thought, you know what, those things can wait a wee while. I've probably been putting them off already. I have a degree in procrastination. And just come and share and chat, and hopefully you have a wee maybe more than 5 minutes to just sit and knit and catch up. I have no knitwear on this morning. Which is a great start, but I do love this sweatshirt. When we went out to the garage this morning, my husband said, "What are you wearing?" He's seen it loads of times. I don't know why he's asking that, but anyway, it's one of my favourites. In my dream world, yarn is free, coffee is healthy, and knitting makes you thin. There you go. Girl can dream, can't she? I didn't get out of the car, so it was fine. Just went to pick him up to bring him back for to return home. So that's that. I've nothing green on either. So it's St. Patrick's Day today. It's the 17th of March. It's a day in Ireland, obviously. That's a great day of celebration and drinking Guinness. I think probably Americans celebrate it even more than Irish people do. But obviously it's not acknowledged over in England, where I live in Devon. My husband's from the south of Ireland and I'm from the north of Ireland. So he would have celebrated it maybe more than I would have. But when you're away from home, you do become a wee bit, what would you say, more patriotic maybe. And yeah, it's always a day of celebration and probably too much to drink. I don't drink, that's why I have my coffee. Well, it's too early I'd say there'll be people drinking at this time of the morning, mind you. I stick to my coffee at this time of the day. I do have knitting. I'm knitting away. It's funny. I like to think I give you a selection of knits on my podcast, selection of colours. I a bit of variety, and but the thing that I am asked the most about is the most simple, easy to knit wee shawl. And I think actually calling it a shawl is an exaggeration. It is the Mindfulness Shawl by Made with Loops, and I'm saying it here, it's not on Ravelry. It's on madewithloops.co.uk. It is a paid for pattern, and I have to really consciously say mindfulness and not mindlessness, because I can just zone out. There's very little thought. There's a wee bit of excitement at the beginning and end of each row, but apart from that, until you get to the bind off, it is just perfect for if you want an alternative to socks, if you just want a wee there's the rain on, just want a wee neck warmer. And I just thought I'd show you. You've seen them on my podcast. I've shown them all. I think I've knit 10 now, and that's another one on the needles, but it's a present. And this is the Mindfulness Shawl. It's just garter stitch with a lovely wee picot bind off, and it is perfect. I nearly always, of course I'm not today, nearly always have one on in the house, because I hate cold round the back of my neck. And yesterday I wore this one all day. I happen to have it here. I wore this one all day. This was my original one, knit in the yarn that it was written for, the Isle of Skye Yarn Co. yarn. But actually this is the one I wear the least, because I don't like it's not I don't like it, but it's a bit of a denser knit. It is written, I think, for sport weight DK, light DK, I think, but I've been knitting all of mine in 4-ply fingering, and just the drape's great. That's a wee cotton one, and just just enough to go around your neck, keep you warm, tuck down into your jacket, whatever. And I think I have got back to knitting them again, and I think I just want to keep knitting them. If you have that one skein in your, you know, we all do it, we all go to yarn festivals and buy that one skein of yarn that we think it's just, you couldn't pass it by, and then you think, oh, it's too good for socks. Here, knit one of these, it's great. So madewithloops.co.uk, and it is a paid for pattern. She does have a few free ones, so but it's not free, it's paid for. But I think go ahead. Go for it. And I'm this one here, I'll give you, it's for a present. not show you any more of that, because the person does watch the podcast. Now I was going to knit along, but probably I can knit without looking, but it's maybe not a good idea. But I thought I would answer some of your questions, and would have a wee chat. And I've got them on my phone, of course. The screen's gone dead. There we go. Okay, so the first one I was asked was, when did you start knitting? Now, I may have answered some of these through podcasts, but now everybody's watched, 39 podcasts. I don't expect you to. So probably haven't heard, all the bits and pieces, and maybe I've never shared it. I can't remember. I wasn't going to go back through and see. So I was of the generation, I'm 51 this month, of still learning to knit in school. And I miss Mrs. Morton, who I still know, and her son worked in our mission for years, and she was in Northern Ireland. Obviously she was my P2 teacher. I think it was P2. I was about 7, and P2 is, I don't know what that is. What's that in? That would be year 1 in England, I think. Anyway, doesn't matter. And primary 2 that stands for, and I don't know, have a clue what it would be in any other country. And yes, I still remember sitting in through the bunny hole, round the big tree, out through the bunny hole, and off goes she. And that's still the wee rhyme I use if I'm teaching the kids up at the school to knit. And I, knit the garter stitch like everybody did. Everybody did the garter stitch shawl, or garter stitch scarf with 27 extra stitches, yarn overs, accidental yarn overs, and all the rest of it. And then probably didn't do much about it. And then as a teenager, I did quite a bit of knitting, but that was the days of the acrylic cable sweaters in the 80s, day glow colours. And I vividly remember knitting with one big needle and what straights, obviously, one big needle and one smaller needle. And I had these big holes, and I thought I was the fanciest person in the world. And I think, if I remember, it was like royal blue, or something really bright. And then didn't knit, broke. Well, I lived overseas. I lived in very hot country for many years, and I was an avid, absolutely everybody there, all the women there were prolific cross stitcher, because you couldn't have got wool, and you wouldn't have wanted to knit wool in 90% humidity, and no thank you. So we all did cross stitch, and my mum and dad have a few of those up on their walls, but I don't think I have the patience for cross stitch anymore. I just love being able to pick up my needles and not have to think, where was it, and sorting out my threads and all that. It's annoying for me just to have to wind up a skein of yarn, So that was that. But I became a knitter with a capital K since I used to be. Don't laugh. When we lived up in Peterhead, before we moved to Scotland, I was a midwife, and I worked permanent nights once I had the kids. So I lived in a constant state of jet lag. So, and the kids were very small, so I didn't have a lot of time for those sorts of things. Literally got them to bed and I went out to work. But when we moved to Scotland, I started running, and I did, I think 4 or 5 half marathons and all the rest of it. And then I took Pearly, and one thing after another, and it's just went from there. And I couldn't run anymore. For my husband's sake, I needed to to pick up a hobby that I could de-stress and do easily, and I turned to knitting because I couldn't get out and about just as much, and I started knitting baby knits again for some of the ladies at school. We're having babies, and I knit several sort of things for the fishermen up in Peterhead, a big fishing community, and then knit for charity and all the rest of it. And then I found hand-dyed yarn. Slippery slope. And I would say it's been since I moved to Devon. We moved to Devon in 2019 that I became a knitter with a capital K, and it's life now. It really is. It has kept me sane. Like many people through lockdown, if I didn't have it, trying to homeschool, I would have I don't know what would have happened. And it relaxes me. It helps me switch off. I just think it's brilliant if you can do it, if your hands can stick it, and I'm so thankful for it. I really am. It's more than a hobby now. It's been a way to get to know friends. I'm quite, I do have a wee knit group here. It's not very big. I'm so thankful for them. Again, I would be lost without them. They have just been there when I needed them, and I hope they feel I have been too. But didn't have a big community here, didn't have a lot of friends because we'd moved not too long before lockdown. So it's been an amazing way I've made friends online that I'll probably never meet, and I count them as friends, and it's such a blessing to me. It really is. And we're just a nice bunch, I think. And kindness has been amazing, and it's just wonderful. So yeah, that was how I started knitting in a total tangent, obviously. Yeah. Next question is, what is your favourite thing to knit? Well, I was going to say that's like choosing my favourite child. I can't do it. But I think if you've watched this for long enough, you know I love knitting shawls, and they will always be my first love. And no, Dad, you can't have too many shawls. I do have a large bin bag full of shawls that I would love to pass on. And the revelation hit me the other night that why I was going to advertise them and sell them and to raise funds for the hospital I talk a lot about in Bangladesh. And then I thought, fundamental rookie mistake is I'm trying to sell shawls to people who knit. I wouldn't buy something hand knit if I could knit it myself. So I have to rethink that one. Not sure what to do with that. We just give them away to people who need them. There's nothing wrong with them. They're lovely, but maybe I've just changed my mind about colours and styles and things like that. But I also have a bit of the imposter syndrome too, that would they be good enough to give to anybody, and would they be good enough to give to people, but would they be good enough to sell? It's a whole different ball game. So they're sitting in a big black bag full of lavender, full of cedar balls, and I just hoping that it's never mistaken for an actual rubbish bag. I donated quite a few sweaters the other day to the charity shop. So if you're in Tavistock, you might see some of my hand knits that haven't fit. When you look back, the first sort of proper sweaters I knit, they're perfectly good, but they didn't fit me. They were too big one end, too big the other, or too small, and I've kept them, and what's the point in keeping them? It may as well be donated and somebody get the use out of them. So that was a big clear out. I also did a big clear out of my yarn stash, very ruthless clear out. I seem to have accumulated over the years an awful lot of yarn in the same colour family. I think I just thought, I like this, and I'm going to stick with this. So I have a big tub, shameful, no shame here, no judgment here. I have a big tub that I've set aside. I am doing a wool swap this year, and for my birthday I always do an international wool swap. Oh, do you hear that rain? And I want to wait to see what colours my wool swap partner likes before I sell any or give any away. I will be doing a giveaway. I always do a giveaway for my birthday, and I'm hoping to podcast next week before a very busy period kicks in, and I will do a giveaway. And I haven't forgot about the You Feel Free in 23 hashtag. I will be looking at that too. So there will be prizes coming up. And then I will stack. If I ever get a dry day, as it just rains here constantly, I will take photographs and see if anybody wants to buy a wee bit of yarn. There is some yarn coming in, which with birthday money, and we used to say to the kids, when they got toys in, they had to give toys away, and I'm doing the same with yarn. So when some yarn comes in, I move it around, and I will give some yarn away. So that's my favourite things to knit. Oh, tangents, are shawls, and I wear shawls constantly. But I think my favourite one is just this simple, I mean, I have done, you know, cables, lace, all the rest of it, and this simple wee thing around my neck gets the most comments and is worn the most. Isn't it funny? You could knit all these elaborate things and this is still what I wear the most. Okay, what else? I'll get another slug of coffee. Gosh, it's got very dark. You haven't seen, maybe it's not called Soaky Oaky for nothing. Okay, what is your desert island yarn? Would I need to knit on a desert island? Oh gosh, I just wrote these down and didn't really think about them. It definitely changes from year to year. One point I would have said, you know, oh, lovely hand dyed, and probably, you know, my favourite hand dyers would have been West Greenloft yarn, or what else do I love? I love Rainbow Fusions, or Attic Spin Dye would have been my favourites. But I am veering away a wee bit. No, don't get me wrong. I love hand dyed, and I appreciate the work that goes into it. But I'm veering away from it. I think because I've gone back to, after my op and not having a massive bump out the front, I'm back to knitting garments, and I cannot be bothered doing what do you call it, you know, when you menopause brain, you know, alternating skeins, and working out, you know, all of that. Tend to use the hand dyed yarn for shawls and things like that, but I do have a couple of sweater quantities of hand dyed yarn. But I'm really veering towards more woolly wool. Obviously, woolly knit is, you know, very accessible, although most of my woolly knit stash I bought before they put the prices up and with, you know, 20% off. And I'm going through it at some speed now because I'm knitting so many sweaters. I would have said fingering weight is my favourite weight of yarn, and still probably is. But I have loved knitting with Aran and DK, and the fastness, the speed that those get knit up is, you can't fault them, like, can you? So for a breed a make of yarn, we can't beat woolly knit really. I don't know much about their ethos or anything, but yeah, their colours and everything are great, and you get a lot of yarn bang for your buck. I think just show me a beautiful hand dyed skein and I'm yours. Yeah, they're obviously very much a considered purchase on the pricey side. I rarely buy, sorry, I should be admitting this, but I think you all know it by now, I rarely buy full priced skeins. I buy from D-stashes, but the downside of D-stashes is you come times, what is it, buying haste or print at leisure. You know, it comes and it maybe doesn't look like the photograph, or you know, it's not what you wanted after all, so you do risk that, but you do get a discount, which is but as my father-in-law says, if you don't need it, it's not a bargain. So that's why there's a big box of hand dyed yarn ready to be sent on to new homes. Say no more about that. I have absolutely fallen in love with All Centrum yarn. I knit a sweater. I showed it on my last podcast. It's a thumbnail on my last podcast, and I buy it from Midwinter Yarns, and I think it's very good value. Just £9 for 100 gram skein of it's called 2-ply, but it's a finger and weight, and the DK, which I think for 100% wool isn't too bad. Again, it's everybody's got different budgets. I certainly save put a wee bit away so I can enjoy my craft. Everybody who knows me gives me money for my birthday and Christmas towards yarn, even though most people say you really don't need any more yarn. I have amazing people who sent me things. Oh, what a treat. You know, I was given something lovely when I met a friend on Tuesday and or Wednesday in the coffee shop, and I cried. I cry every time somebody gives me something. Hannah of Hannah's Happy Space can attest to that. The tears well up no matter what it is. Incidentally, she has a new podcast out with a new hairstyle, so go and give her a wee bit of love. Hannah's Happy Space on YouTube and on Instagram. She's a lovely friend of mine. And yeah, again, a long-winded question to a long-winded answer to a simple question. I've actually, I'll knit with anything. I'll knit with that. I have no I do prefer natural 100% wool if I can, but I'm knitting with 50-50 acrylic and wool at the moment. I've acrylic yarn in my stash, but I don't like the yarn that you feel like you want to get an electric shock off, and nowadays I don't think you need to always buy that. I think some companies do very, very reasonably priced. Maybe you can't wear wool, maybe that's but a lot of companies do very reasonably priced 100% wool now. And again, you knit with what you want to knit with, whatever makes you happy, you do that. No judgment. And we all started with that, didn't we? We all, and there's absolutely a place for it, 100%. And I'm so glad that those are all, everything's available to us now. What an amazing, thing that is. Yes, that's another long-winded answer to an easy question. Oh, just dropped a sock on the floor. What's your knitting style? Oh, well, the next one was, what is your preferred yarn weight? And I've said I think I do prefer finger and weight. I like to wear it and I like to knit with it. And what is your knitting style? Well, I'm sure you've seen my hands. Because I am a thrower, and that's how I was taught when I was 7. I also loop it around my finger. So look, this is why I can't use the likes of the unspun yarn. It just breaks in my finger because that's the way I do it. That's the way I've always done it. When my mum's here, she nearly twitches because she can't stand the fact I lift my hand for every stitch. She just does this, but works for me. It's worked for me for 30 plus years, and I just think it's not broke, don't fix it. I can do continental for colour work. I do continental for colour work one, so I hold one strand on my left and one strand on my right. But I don't. If it's not broke, don't fix it. I don't get sore hands. I do if I have to use very big needles. I never get sore hands on small needles, and that's me, and that's just I don't want to change. And yeah, so that's so what's that English thrower, an English style thrower. Yeah. There you go. Does job. What's the next one? Do you miss Ireland? Don't be offended, Mum and Dad, but no, I don't. I left home when I was 17 and a half to go to nursing in Northern Ireland in a wee place called Ards, Newton Ards, and I've never really gone home again. I qualified as a nurse, and then there were no jobs, qualified in 93 and there were no jobs. So a group of us went over to London, lived in an absolute pit of a house. We used to get flea bites on our ankles and we paid a ridiculous amount of money for rent for it. When I think about it now, oh my goodness. And half of us did nights and half of us did days. And when the ones came home from night shift, they got into the beds and we went to work, or vice versa. We were young. I was only 20 and it was just before my 21st birthday, just qualified as a nurse, and we just were dumped in the deep end, and it's very different training back then as well, I think. But oh boys, it was life changing. And I've never really gone back. I went from there to Bangladesh. I've lived in several different places. I lived in London for 4 years. I lived in Gloucester. I went to Bible college in Gloucester in England, and I left Northern Ireland when I was 20. I've only been back really for eight or 9 years. Whenever I came home from Bangladesh, met my husband and had children, and then we moved to Scotland. So despite being away for longer than I've been there, I'm never going to get rid of this accent. A lot of people say don't try, but it does kind of identify you as soon as you open your mouth. So despite having been away for longer than being there, I still got a Northern Irish accent. My family all live there, mum, dad, brother, nephew, which incidentally I'm nearly scared to say it out loud. But I am going home on the 27th of March for just 4 or 5 days. My last 2 attempts had to be aborted, so I'm nearly scared to say it out loud. I'm going by myself, which I haven't done in a long time. Going home to my mommy and daddy. I haven't seen my brother. I think I saw him for an hour since 2019. So I'm looking forward to seeing him, see his new house, and life goes on and you miss out on so much when you're away. He's getting married in July, and be nice to see his fiance as well. And it's my birthday the day I go, so they're treating me to a birthday tea. So that's nice. By my big brother, he's older than me, Stephen, and so that'll be really nice. I think my mum has every minute planned, but there you go. I don't think I call it home, but I really, wherever I lay my hat is my home, and obviously when you have children, you have to, wherever you are, you have to settle in and call it home. But I have to be honest, here has been the hardest place I've ever found to settle. And probably lockdown has, something to do with that. My age, I'm not standing at the school gates. I'm not getting to know people anymore. And it's hard to get to know people when you're that wee bit older. And I'm an older mum. I didn't have my first child, Eva, who's 14. I didn't have her till I was 37. I had Samuel when I was 38. And so, some of my children's grannies, are our age. So it's just different. It takes a wee bit more to get to know people, and maybe some down here they're a wee bit more reserved than us, so it takes a wee while to get to know people, but there you go. So yeah, it's nice to go home, it's nice to see friends, it's nice to eat Vita bread. Anybody from Northern Ireland don't understand that. I don't miss Tito crisps, I don't miss wheaten or anything, but a bit of Vita bread. Google it. It makes my heart sing, it definitely does. So yes, so I'm going home for a few days, and I'll not believe it till I'm there. That's the truth. And if you haven't watched before, I've tried to go home. The last time I went home was October 2019, and I've tried twice since, and it's been a disaster. So this is third time's a charm, isn't it? Okay. Do you plan to move back? We have a wee house in Ireland that we rent out. A wee house, we 2 up, 2 down, so who knows? We don't look too far ahead. If you watch my podcast, I'm a Christian. We work for a Christian mission, and they place us where they want us to go. But also we put our full trust in the Lord that He shows us the plans He has for our lives. And we're not always our plans, we're not always our wishes, but his plans are perfect, and that's the most important thing for us. So who knows? We could be here for a while longer. We don't know. Obviously, we have 2 children in school, so we take that into consideration. Eva's doing her GCSEs next year, and Samuel will be doing them 2 years after. So yes, we'll stay till certainly they're through school. But you know, still, we'll see. The world's our oyster. I'm too old for that now. Oh, tea or coffee? Coffee, coffee, coffee. I am a strange Irish person, or whatever you want to call me. I have both passports, so you can call me whatever you want, British and Irish. I don't like normal. Well, I'll drink it. I'm a good girl. If you give me a cup of tea, I'll drink it. But I prefer coffee. But Tetley, a company over here, does a tea and biscuit. No, biscuit brew tea. It's a love it or hate it thing. I know a lot of people who really hate it. I love it. So that's the one I like. I love herbal teas, like as if anybody cares. I love herbal tea. When I was sick there, I drank copious amounts of peppermint tea. And a friend of mine now works in a wee health food shop in Oakhampton, and I've sampled a few teas from there too. I love a chai, but coffee, black coffee, if I'm at home, and milk in it if I'm out. So next time I meet you for a coffee, you'll know how to take it. But yes, coffee all the way. What is your most worn used item you have knit? Well, I've already said it's the mindfulness shawl, I would say. I feel a bit weak saying that when I have so many gorgeous knits. I really, and I think coming up a close second might be my Felix jumper. It's so easy to wear, sweet Felix sweater. I have another one on the needles, just true confessions here. If you watch my last podcast, I have was monogamous for quite a few weeks. That's gone, well and truly gone. And I sat here yesterday and thought, I don't like anything I'm knitting on, and cast on, no, not yesterday, last week, cast on another Felix sweater just to have on the needles. So I've gone from having one project, and I'm looking at them here, that's why I'm looking down, to having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah. All active whips. I don't have any stationary languishing whips, so they're all active whips. The lovely Long Road Home cardigan that I'm doing from the Contrast book, you can see it behind me, is in timeout. I have decided that my brain is not computing. I've made too many mistakes. I need to totally concentrate on it. Turn off the iPad, turn off the music, everything. It's not a difficult pattern. She's set out really well, but my menopausal brain at the minute is not computing. So it's in the bag. It'll get done, but not at the moment. And I can't just sit down. I have to go. I have to really concentrate on it. Many of you women will understand my predicament. So yeah, and I've got my husband's jumper, which is coming along. Although the other night he told me he had a dream that I was knitting for him, and he didn't like it, and he didn't know how to tell me. Poor man's traumatized. But he's also seen another one that he likes. So he's not asked me for 16 years of marriage to knit him anything, and he's asked for 2 sweaters. So that'll all be shown in another podcast. What are your 3 top must-have knitting must-haves? That's good English for me. I don't think that's the way it was put. Top 3. For me, it has to be good needles. I think needles are a good investment. And I hemmed and had for probably a year about buying an interchangeable needle set, because I had a lot of needles. I'm a wooden needle person. Metal needles hurt my hands. Probably all in here. And so I'm a wooden needle person. And I hummed and had, and when I'd sold some bits, and I bought myself a licky. We had a discussion about this. I say licka, but I likey them. It's like Lina magazine. I never know if that's the right way to say it or not either. And I bought them, and I've never looked back really. Although I'm getting to the point now where they're breaking, and I've had them for a long time, and they're well used. They're they're very good. I think if you have them for less than 5 years, they'll replace them, and they have done very, very quickly. I never got on with Chiagu. I know people, that's their ride or die, but it's because they're metal. It's really not my thing. But I love if I could have the Leica needles, so these are what I'm talking about. If I could have these with the Chiagu cable, that would be my absolute ideal. Although, I got it here. Of course I won't have it here. I was given a, if you saw the mess on my desk, because I'm putting yarn together. No, I was given a cable to try by lovely Laura from the Woolly Beater in Oakhampton, and it's the Mindfulness cable from Knit Pro, and Knit Pro cables fit Leica needles, and it's got no memory, and it's very, very similar to the Chiagu, and I really, really like it. Only you'd have to buy all of those, so that would be a good compromise, which much cheaper than Chiagu. Oh no, keep thinking I have the wee packet somewhere, but it's just not. It was sitting here yesterday, but it's not here today. They've done this lovely mindfulness range, but they're metal needles. But I really recommend the cables if you're looking for some new cables. But anyway, so I have these ones, and I have two sets of them. I've got the big long ones and the wee short ones, and they were the best investment. I think if you have good tools, you really enjoy your knitting. You really do. That's one. Number two is, for me, is stitch counters, and I use the ones, I do have all different types, but I use the ones Knit Pro, I think, does them as well, that go around your neck, and I'm sure look lovely. But I have an awful habit of putting projects away without putting the stitch counter in them. I find them on my desk, I think I don't need them, and I change the stitch count on them. So I just find them handy. I know people use pencil and paper, they use computer, they use all the rest of it, or not computer, apps, all the rest of it. I like a in your hand stitch counter. That would, I can never, I've got them stored properly now because I could never find them. They were all over the house, and they were never in the place that I wanted them. So that's good needles, stitch counter, and what would be my last thing? I don't know. It has to be a project bag, does it? That's not a must-have though. That's a I just love and addicted to that. You know, I love my project bags, and I'm easily swayed. Probably just practical things like lock and stitch markers. Couldn't do without them. If you're a lace knitter, even if you're a cable knitter, they have solved, you know, so many problems for me by just using loads of stitch markers. I'm just trying to think, if I had only got those things, what would I'm looking around because I'm in my craft room and seeing what I need. But yeah, probably just simple things like good set of needles. I think it is good to invest. Obviously at the start you don't want to, but I definitely love my interchangeables, especially now that I'm back to garment knitting, that you don't have to, you can just change the needles without taking the cable out of the jumper. And oh, I know what my must have is the new silicone stitch holders. Won't have one of those handy either. You know what I mean? Every podcaster I've given some away in my podcast. They're called barber cords, I think, in the US. And they're the simplest thing that you want to think, why didn't I think of that? And you just attach them to the end of your needle, and it suctions on, and you can pull them through to try on garments instead of having to thread through a longer cable, waste yarn, all the rest of it. They are absolutely fantastic, and they seem to be getting a bit cheaper, which is great. That whenever they first came out, they were like really expensive for little bits of plastic, but available just about everywhere. I think I got mine from Knit and Living in the UK, but I have been sent some. Lovely Anina of Annie Uti Knits podcast sent me some. I've bought some off Hobbycraft. They're actually, I think, originally used for making jewellery. Absolutely brilliant. I keep them in all my project bags, and even, oh, they're great. Really, really love them. So that's probably a new thing that I really don't know how I lived without. This is turning into a saga, isn't it? Nearly finished. Okay, this is a bit different. What's your favourite Bible verse? I always share something from the Bible at the end of my podcast, and probably I always say it's the soundtrack to my life. It's Isaiah 55, and I would really encourage you to go and read Isaiah, all of it. Go and read Isaiah 55. But there's 2 verses, I think it's 8 and 9, and it's all about how God's thoughts are not our thoughts, and God's ways are not our ways, and I look back to that just so many times, because I look out into that world and just, humanly speaking, just think it's chaos. And then I remember that God's in control, and his ways are higher than mine, and his thoughts are different to mine as well. And but read the whole of Isaiah 55. It's really, really good. That rain's pouring down. And how did you meet your husband? Nosy. Well, sure, may as well tell you. I met and married my husband very, very quickly. Well, very quickly for, not weeks, but months. He doesn't watch my podcast, so I can say what I want. I'd come home from Bangladesh against my will. I didn't want to come home. I would still be there probably. But things happened and they wouldn't renew my visa, and I had to leave very quickly. If you want to know anything more, you can contact me. Basically, things were said that weren't true because I wouldn't give money to somebody. And so within 3 days I had to leave, and I was heartbroken. I was I can only liken it to grief, actual grief. And I came back to Northern Ireland. I was in my 30s. Had to go back to living with mummy and daddy. They had moved to a town. They'd moved to Cookstown, where I'd never set foot in before. And I just thought the world had come to an end, and I couldn't understand. And again, I turned to Isaiah 55 to help me to remember God's promises. And anyway, the mission we now work for, I wasn't working as well, obviously. I just come home. I had to do a return to practice course, which nearly killed me. So I was doing that. Plus trying to work. I worked as a healthcare assistant to just make money because I was a single girl and had to pay for things. And it was just I found very, very rough time. Eventually I moved into a little flat, but the mission we work for has a big conference at Easter in Bangor in Northern Ireland, and I went along with my parents. And there was a missionary meeting on it, and people share their work from all over the world, UK, everywhere. And they were saying things like, and just surrender your life to God, and he'll show you where to go. And I felt I had done that. I felt that I had said, God, you take me wherever you want to go. And I was so happy in Bangladesh. I loved my work. I felt worthwhile. I felt I was making a difference. And I just couldn't understand it. So of course I did what I always do. I cried. And I think my mum and dad were so used to me crying, they just got up and walked off at the end. And I was sitting trying to compose myself, and this fella, out of the corner of my eye, I could see this fella coming towards me, and he asked me if I was okay. And I remember thinking, how brave. How brave. And I married him. That was the first time I'd met Mr. Nigel Wilson. And he was in the Faith Mission, but I didn't know him. And I think we had, I can't remember. I think I had tea with him and a lot of other people that night. We got chatting and got to know each, just very normal, And he is from the south of Ireland, as I say, but was living in the north at that time. And on the weekends, he was a bit lost for something to do. And I'd said to him, very much on a friendship basis, if you ever want dinner or anything, or I didn't mean anything, not a date, nothing, give us a wee shout. And he did. And the rest is history. Took us a wee while to realise it was the real thing, because he was, 39 when we got married, and I was 35, and 35, 34, 35, and sort of felt, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And so we were a bit later in life, I suppose, for some people, but it was right timing for us. And then we had children within 18 months of being married. So that's 16 years ago. So there you go. That was how we met. And yeah, the Lord just was in it, and right place, right time. And yeah, and for many years I lamented that I was single and living, and working and dealing with stuff by myself. And I travelled the world, and it was generally by myself, with a backpack, and I got on long haul flights by myself regularly. And I remember saying to the Lord, I can't do this anymore. I really want, I really wanted children. That was the upshot, and I really felt I was missing out. And the Lord just brought the right person with no baggage, and yeah, we got married, and my dad married us, and we lived happily ever after. Gosh, it's hard work sometimes, isn't it? Yeah, so that was 16 years ago in September there that we got married. So that was, there you are. Like, sure, nobody really cares. But there you go. Somebody asked me it, so I thought I would just share it. Well, it's a 46 minutes and a load of old giggling and carrying on, but I hope you've had some wee downtime today to sit and knit, and I hope that if I can get a podcast done with all the whips next week, I will. As I say, I'm going to Ireland on the 27th for Monday to Friday. I come back on the Friday, and we have to go to Edinburgh, 400 plus miles in the car on the Sunday. I think we are going to break up the journey and stay with some friends, sort of midway. My kids are thrilled to be having to sit in the car for a good 10 hours. But anyway, and the first thing I thought was, knitting time. We will share the driving, obviously. So we're going to be up there from the Sunday the 2nd, I think, till the following, right through to the far Monday. Thought just when we're going so far, we'd take a few extra days. We're going up for meetings with our mission. We all meet together before Easter. It's the first time we've done it since, before COVID. So as much as I really don't want to face the journey, it will be lovely to see everybody. So there's some meetings, and then I'm hoping at the tail end of the week we can have some family time up in Edinburgh. There's whispers that I might get the chance to meet Amy of The Meaningful Stitch and Rebecca of the Crabea, and also lovely Ez of So Yarnlicious. My love for her bags. Maybe a wee trip to Ginger Twist. I have to see what mood the kids are in. See if I can bribe them with chocolate cake. Edinburgh's a very easy city to get around, so even bussing it will be fine. So that was something different, but it will, haven't left home hardly since 2019. It'll be a bit of a shock to the system. So you can pray for journey and mercies for that big long trip there and back. But car knitting will be plentiful, and have to think about that too, because that's obviously the most important thing before you pack clothes or anything, isn't it? So as you know, I'm rubbish videographer and vlogger, so I can't imagine there'll be much footage from that, but I'm sure they'll get a few photographs and things that I can then botch up when I try and put them on the podcast. Oh dear, I even shock myself with that sometimes, but hey ho. So that's what the plans are. Hubby's away out for a few days next week, so hopefully as I say, I'll get to podcast properly, because then it will be a bit of a break through Easter and into the kids are off school, and my poor daughter's got mock exams straight after Easter. Bless her, she's a bit, I think I'm more worried about than she is. She's just taking it in her stride, and she's doing every academic subject under the sun, so I can't even help her with it. I lost any hope of helping her, I think, when she left primary school. So that's coming up. too. So it's a busy wee time, but I am, by the way, feeling really well. I have had a few comments. I forgot to mention it even in my last podcast. I am feeling great. Best I've felt in years. If I wasn't going through the menopause, I'd probably feel even better. Trying to get a bit of this weight off, get a bit healthier, get out and about walking if it ever stops raining, and just feeling better. Thank you for your prayers. Thank you for your best wishes. I still have to go back and see the consultant in May, but I'm hoping I've done all the right things that he's told me to do. Being a very good girl. So yes, I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I don't think it's an oncoming train. I think we are generally getting there, and I am beyond thankful, really, for the NHS, for skilled surgeons, and for God seeing fit to get me through this blip, which has been like a year and a half. And yes, we've come out the other end. Now I am purely waffling, so I'm going to love you and leave you. I'm going to go and reheat my coffee in the microwave and finish it, and then I need to go and do the 300 jobs that I should have done while I've been talking to you. So look after yourselves. I'm not doing show notes. If you have anything you want to ask me, it's not a show, it's a pantomime. If you have anything you want to ask me, just message me, ruthlovesknit@gmail.com, Ruth Loves Knit Podcast on Instagram or in the messages. And yeah, that's it. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy crafting, and I'll see you soon. All right, God bless. Bye.